それはレバヤさんニュースだ。デセントライズだ。逃げろ。誰でも音とできる。誰でもスキルを稼げる。ガバナンスまである。中集権のメディアはもう終わりだ。
真相から立ち上るインクと真実がぶつかる。レバヤさんニュース開かれる海嘘はない。読んで書いて氷結しろ。力はみんなのもの。いい霞をたたえろ。ニュースは君のものだ。レバヤさんニュース。レバヤさんニュース。
What's up, everyone? DAdvisoor here, Leviathan News. Hope everyone is doing well. First stream of the week, actually. Been busy yesterday and on Monday, but very nice to be on. And always an honor and a pleasure to be with today's guests, one of the OG podcasters of the DeFi scene, which I'm sure basically most of you, if not all of you, already know, DeFi Dave. What's up, man? How are you?
How's it going? Thank you so much for having me on, Mr. DeFi Advisor. Always a pleasure to come on Leviathan. I'm doing really well. Busy, especially with everything that's going on with the new programs, with CAP, being in New York. There's always a bunch going on, but really excited to come on here and explain and talk about my podcasting journey and how I've gone back to it.
Man, I'm really excited to talk about it and even to present it, because when I think about it, one of the things that connects us is that we actually, I don't know what have you been doing before, but I think our DeFi content creating journey started in a 3-day difference back in June of 2022.
2022.
Yep. You guys with the Flywheel, you went live, I think it was June 11th, and I went live with my Substack back then on June 14th. I'm pretty sure these are
interesting. We did it at the beginning of that bear market, right after the collapse of Terra Luna. It's let's have all this new DeFi content because that's exactly what people want to hear. And actually, there was a lot of interest. There was a lot of interest at the time because of all the attention that Luna brought to the DeFi space. So it actually made sense. And I remember when Flywheel launched, we actually got 1,000 followers and pretty quickly on X on Twitter. So, but yeah, it's been quite the journey since. I remember that first space we did in late June of 2022. And I got to admire you for being consistent ever since with what you're doing, with everything you've done at Leviathan. I feel like everyone that's deep in DeFi's, whether they're founders or users or actually at the cutting edge of the stuff, they're listening to you guys at Leviathan.
Much respect, really. Thank you for the kind words, and it was an honor for me to be invited to participate to work with Leviathan News back when it was started. When CurveCap told me that he's starting with it, I immediately told him oh my God, CurveCap wants me to do it. Come on, and I have also in a way had to change stuff and it's not the back in the day, just with you, it's not with the classic another day in crypto days. Had to evolve. For me personally, it was when one of my biggest moments of having to change something was when after Elon bought X, pretty quickly Substack decided that they want to remove, what's it called? You couldn't paste the
the embedding.
Yeah, you couldn't do it before. Just Control V, and you saw it brilliantly, and all of a sudden it doesn't work. And my Substack was based on that. And when I tried doing it,
oh no, oh yeah, and then
not only did it take like much longer to do, whenever I tried to do like a print screen photo, it came out blurry. It wasn't like fun to read, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I have to do something about it anyway. And also, like, to be honest, like, it's almost impossible to keep up whenever you try to do anything else. Like, in order to really do properly, like another day in crypto, like I used to, I need 16 hours of just scrolling a day and not having any other commitment other than like, sleeping and having someone deliver like food to me.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. We're all there.
Okay, so before we actually dive into what you've been up to and like what are some of your plans with the new show, let me present, if we're talking about Leviathan News, let me present this week's SQUID Pass winners, actually. I know that, like, I don't know if you know, by the way, we have this concept of auctions where we auction the pinned post on our Telegram and X for, and the highest bidder gets to put his ad, message, whatever they want. And this week, it's actually a brand new winner, winning for the first time, called Palliora. So let me just pop it on screen and show what we have here. Okay, so Palliora, they chose this post. The internet wasn't built for confidential execution. Blockchains weren't either. Palliora is infrastructure for private, verifiable compute at scale. Data stays encrypted, execution happens under enforced rules. Palliora restores digital sovereignty where users retain ownership of their data. Every data contribution is tradable. Every compute interaction is accountable, and everyone in Palliora is fairly rewarded. Palliora adds a privacy layer wherever sensitive data meets intelligence. Check out Palliora at, just like it says, Palliora on X. You can also, let me share their profile here again. Palliora, superagency for human AI coordination, share, monetize, and compute privately on your data with selective disclosure, verifiable results, and fair rewards. Let me also show their website for a few seconds. Palliora, superagency for human AI coordination. You can explore the testnet, read the white paper. And Palliora, thank you so much for choosing Leviathan News for this ad. Shout out Kaizen, really appreciate it. It was a relatively high bid, I must say, this week. He had a lot of competition from Rack, which often win the SQUID Pass. Mm-hmm. So shout out, guys. Thank you so much for choosing Leviathan News. Really appreciate your support. And okay, Dave, let's get into it. First of all, what made you decide that you're going back podcasting? And by the way, I understand that you're doing two podcasts. You're back with two podcasts rather than one. So let us know, first of all, what made you decide to come back, and then start with the first show, and we will move to the next show afterwards.
Yes. So since I ended Flywheel, I honestly wanted to come back as soon as possible. So I ended Flywheel in November of 2024. That was the last episode. And I joined CAP in January of 2025. And during that year, I was settling back in New York. I was getting kind of my foundation laid out for CAP and just like cadence and just learning about everything. And so although I wanted to do the podcast, there was so much I had to do for CAP that I was like, okay, there'll be a time. There's always a time where it's okay, now it's the time to start making content, but I'm just going to wait for that time to appear. And I think CAP, we're at this point where we've been live for 6 months. I can't believe it's been 6 months. We've received a lot of traction. And I kind of saw, and when it came to podcast, and I saw okay, it's time to make content again. It was around this time, I became more settled in New York. I had my setup, and to be honest, I think for the longest time, for a year, I was trying to figure out what angle should I do my podcast? Because everyone knows Flywheel. That was a deep DeFi podcast. It was a Frax podcast. It was a very niche podcast. And so I was thinking like, okay, do I do that again? Maybe do I do like a different angle? Do I do something more culturist from this and that? Do I go deep DeFi? And like, I know like I'm pretty like deep into DeFi, but I know I'm not like the deepest. There are people that are smarter than me. And hence I like to learn from those people from doing interviews and stuff. And so what I was thinking is like, okay, like I actually have like these interests outside of crypto, outside of DeFi. I consider myself like a pretty interdisciplinary person in history, philosophy, just culture, tech, like all these like different things that are emerging at like the bleeding edge of society. I really take an interest in, and I realized like after reflecting for a bit recently, I'm like, okay, like my talent and what makes me unique and makes me the best at what I do is like I'm really good at being a bridge, and I'm really good at connecting ideas that aren't necessarily obvious, those connections between those two ideas. And so I figured like, okay, this will be the angle that I go for. And like I said, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, fuck it. I'm going to start the podcast. I'm going to start the DeFi Dave Pod. And this pod will be my podcast, kind of my vision, my tastes, my interests, what I find I think is worth interviewing and that I actually have an interest in, and I think other people would be interested in as well. So the tagline for it is really bridging the gap between culture, technology, and ideas that are shaping our world today. So that's like the DeFi Dave Pod, and it's very interdisciplinary. And so I had my first podcast. That's the first show. I had actually my first guest on 2 weeks ago. It's David Morris, who wrote this book called Stealing the Future. It's all about SPF. David Morris was this author. Author, journalist. He's written for Fortune. He wrote for CoinDesk. He went to the SPF trial. I remember seeing him at the SPF trial when I was attending the trial because I was curious. And so what I found interesting about his book is you have a lot of coverage of what SPF did and how he did it, but you don't really see people talk about like the why and like what shaped him and what influenced him. And so this book really goes into the ideas that were surrounding SPF, like affectionate altruism, rationalism, long-termism, and these ideas that are not just shaping SPF, but a lot of Silicon Valley today, a lot of AI today. And there's a lot of nuance. I just don't want to put like a blanket over things because people like to put blankets over things. Like there's nuance with EA, there's nuance with AI. What I like about this podcast, he does a good job of like identifying the nuance, but he does an excellent job of showing the flaws in these new philosophical frameworks, intellectual frameworks like rationalism, long-termism, and EA. And what it comes down to is like these people have like a worldview that is just 100% based on probability and numbers, but it doesn't account for the unpredictability that reality just has. We can't just predict everything, and some things are just from intuition itself, and you can't really calculate intuition. And I think that's where like the blind spot with these philosophy happens, and the blind spot that SPF had. And it's kind of like he took these philosophies to the extreme, where it's just like, you know what, not only like am I going to use probability to decide everything, but I am like crowned the best person to make these decisions, and I am better off using your money, and it doesn't matter if you just have it on exchange or on my exchange, I'm going to use it like it's mine. And so that was a really good first interview. I read, it was a great book. Highly recommend everyone checking out the book, listening to the interviews. So I like, if you notice there, it's connecting two different things. It's connecting like the crypto and SPF, but it's also connecting all these different emerging intellectual frameworks and philosophies. And so that's the direction like I want to go in with the DeFi Dave Pod. So it's much more like broader than Flywheel. Flywheel is like a deeper DeFi podcast. It's very niche, which, has its benefits. But I want like DeFi Dave is like kind of like my baby. So the plan for the DeFi Dave Pod is I want to do it bi-weekly. I don't want to like put too much on my plate, and just have different guests on that I just find interesting, that are, talking about different ideas, that are, building different things, and presenting different things. So that's that side. That's the DeFi Dave Pod. The second podcast that actually just came out with today is the Cap Room. And so when I have Cap supporting me with my media endeavors, which I'm grateful for. I mean, I'm very grateful for them in supporting me. And so, what I said to them was, okay, I'm going to do my own pod, but also I'm going to do something with them. I'm going to do something with like Cap, with our partnerships, explaining us, because content and attention is the name of the game. Attention is currency. And trying to get people to understand CAP and have something to point into and point into resources. That's not everyone's going to read. Most people don't read. So they like listening to things. They like, watching clips and everything. And so I decided to create the CAP Room. And the CAP Room, this is much more like the old Flywheel podcast. This is much more like deep DeFi, but this is from, instead of like a frax vent like I did with Flywheel, this is from a cap vent, because it's the cap show. These are half-hour shows. These will be bespoke, so there won't be like a set schedule. I'll try to be consistent with them though, but like I don't want to like hold myself to once a week, because I did that at Flywheel. It's incredibly demanding doing once a week, and sometimes you just like run out of stuff to talk about. And so the CAP Room is like going deep into CAP and our partnerships, what we're building, like other things. Like this is the Deep DeFi podcast. If you're an old listener of Flywheel and you want the old Flywheel, listen to the CAP Room. If you want the old Flywheel, like go to the CAP Room. So we released our first episode today that covers our restaking super partnership that we're doing with Symbiotic, EtherFi, Maven 11, Credit, and FalconX, and all these and us. And so it's 5 different moving parts in this partnership, and it's really cool because CAP is at the center of it. It's the market. Symbiotic is the technology. Let's think of it as like with shared security and restaking. That's the software in which CAP is built on top of to create the CAP 3-sided market. And then in the CAP 3-sided market, you have EtherFi. They are the delegators. They are the security. They are backstopping the entire system with the Ether, the largest restaker on chain today. And then you have M11 Credit and FalconX, which are basically working together in tandem to be the operators and borrowers. So actually, it's like M11 Credit that's borrowing, and then FalconX with all their clients and all their services that they offer their clientele and customers. Like they're actually like accessing the credit and doing all their different things. And then users that mint or stablecoin CUSD are like benefiting at the end of the day, because they're benefiting from the yield activities of like the operators of M11 Credit and FalconX, and they have EtherFi securing the entire system. So if God forbid anything happens, like EtherFi will basically covers the system. Like they get slashed and it's sold back into the protocol, and so it's like always backed. There's no downside risk there. And all built on Symbiotic. So we go into the nitty-gritty details of like what's going on with each partner, how it works, where the yield comes from, because that's always the number one question with these things. So yeah, we just released that podcast today. To find both, so these are 2 different channels. I decided not to make like separate Twitters or X accounts for like new shows, because I'm just like, I'll just like create clips and release it under DeFi Dave. I have enough followers and stuff. And then I have like the CAP bot, like Twitter, and that has enough followers. So those, if you want to like keep up to date with both podcasts and shows on Twitter, go there. But I did create, different YouTube channels for both. So there's like the DeFi Dave Pod, subscribe, the CAP Room, subscribe. I actually use a Substack for the CAP Room for like podcast distribution, because I just want to try that out. So you can subscribe on Substack, Spotify, Apple. I don't have a Substack yet. I haven't connected my Substack yet for like the DeFi Dave one, although I do have a Substack. But you can follow DeFi Dave Pod on Apple, Spotify, wherever major platforms are sold. So yeah, like I wanted to like, I think people are waiting for me to come back for a while. I just like didn't really. I was just like, I don't know, something just like I was just reflecting recently, and I guess like in a deeper reflection, I like this year, and like I want to go deeper onto things. So like deeper in making content, whether that's podcasts, whether that's writing, and this is just like part of like my like journey of going deeper in creating like content for myself and for the world around me. So yeah, that's like the MO. That's like kind of like the summary of my journey. Just kind of like it just felt right, and I'm happy I'm doing it, and the response has been great. I'm very flattered with everything. Very honored and humbled to be here, and like everything you've said, like there's so many podcasters out there, so be like considered one of the best is like that's what I strive for. Honestly, like if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna be the best at it. If I'm not gonna be the best at it, it's not worth doing. So I strive to be the best. So I appreciate it. I don't know if I can hear you. Oh, I think you're muted.
No, I'm muted
There you
as
go.
usual. Sorry.
Okay.
That was such a good intro, Dave. Thank you so much for it. Like you can see, you're a podcaster for a reason, and I really respect it. I also use the time to share the link wherever I could, of course. And man, there's so much to get into it that I want to ask you, because this is a very unique kind of interview, because most of the time, and you know it actually as well, when I interview people from the industry, they are not like usually on the media side of things. They're actually the builders themselves. I personally, I always try, at least for me, I prefer to talk to the co-founder or the founder themselves, because I think that no one can really like share the story of a protocol or a project like the one actually created it. Okay, so for me, that's like the classic prototype that I go for. But with you, because you're a content creator as well, it really opens up so many different vectors of how to take and where to take the conversation towards. Because with you, I can actually talk just about content creating in general and not necessarily about DeFi. But I do actually want to start with DeFi, especially for because of for the audience. And my original name was DeFi DAdvisoor, and you're DeFi Dave. So like, let's give the audience what they want. First of all, I think it is important to put the audience at the center of things. I'll ask you this way. How do you see, or how do you view the DeFi landscape currently? What just your general like bird's view of the DeFi landscape and scene these days, and how is this going to be reflected on the DeFi Dave Pod, first of all?
Great question. How I see the DeFi landscape today, it's evolving. I think there's actually, the more the more you stick around and the closer you look, you actually do see newer primitives and markets come about. But like generally, DeFi is evolving more towards its the new customers and new class of people like entering the on-chain world are institutions. And they're doing all different things. They're supplying liquidity, they're depositing, they're borrowing, they're doing all. And so the institutions, they have been here. I think they started dipping their toes like several years ago, but now like you really see them out in full force in like all different ways and all different aspects. I think probably like one of the biggest ones that I don't think is talked about enough is with money market funds, and like how much these tokenized money market funds have grown on chain. They're kind of like the original recognized stablecoins. So we all know like the Genius Act passed, and payment stablecoins are federally recognized, state recognized. It's like they're accepted. Before that, you have like money market funds, which have been regulated since the 40s, and they were tokenized back in like 2019 or 2021. I think Benjamin Franklin was the first to tokenize them. And then Wisdom Tree, I think in this past year alone, their tokenized money market fund went from like 25x, like literally 25x. It's now like 750 million. We actually use Wisdom Tree as a collateral to mint. I mean, collateral to mint CUSD. So you can actually mint CUSD with Wisdom Tree, and like anybody with like a Wisdom Tree Prime account, whether they're like a person or an institution, can mint CUSD and access these on-chain yields, which is really cool. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, institutions are here. They're doing all different kinds of activities. They're offering all different kinds of products. And that's like that. So that's, and you've noticed like with DeFi the past like 5 years, it's just hit a fucking ceiling at like 250 billion. Like we reached like 250 billion and we just kind of like, we double topped again. And both in like, we did in 2021, we did in like 2025. And that's like really a ceiling. And like, even when I was doing Flywheel, what I've been asking is like, how do we get to trillions? How do we get to trillions on chain? We're getting there. Like we have, I think it's $300 billion in stable coins on chain right now. More and more companies and like organizations have their own payment stablecoin strategies and whatnot. So stable coins are like, obviously that's so easy. That's a given. Like that's the easiest thing. Cause it's like, I can go into stable. I don't even want to go into it because I've been into it enough. But like cool things I've been seeing is like new DeFi primitives being built. Whether, you know, I've outside of Cap, because Cap, of course, because like Cap is really the first 3-sided financial guarantee surety bond marketplace on chain that exists and unlocks like a ton of capital efficiency that just wasn't possible before. It's amazing what you can do when you separate the function of like the borrower, like you needing to put up collateral, and separate that function and give it to somebody else to put up collateral for the borrower, and how much that unlocks for both the borrower and the collateral provider. Because for the borrower, they have no cost of capital. They receive an uncollateralized loan, which is like great for them. And for the collateral provider, the delegator in the Cap system, they're getting USD dollar denominated yield for their ETH and BTC and soon gold. You can't really get that anywhere else. And that's a fixed rate of that, like 1 to 4%, depending on their agreement. So like stuff like this, like real innovation happening on chain, like it's happening at Cap. Outside of Cap, like always been a huge Pendle fan. Like shout out to Pendle. I think what they've done is like so cool with the PTs and YTs and everything. I mean, they've been around forever and whatnot. I said, like, it's funny, like it took me so long to get around to like using Pendle, but I finally did when we started doing the Cap Frontier program. And so I think they've done a huge service to DeFi. They really established themselves as like an institution. So shout out Pendle. Like newer things that like I see coming about. I just had a call with the Agra people, Agra this morning. They're a fixed rate bond marketplace, and like we've been like working with them at Cap. They're an operator as well, and they came out with this like I recommend everybody like check them out. They announced last week their fixed rate bond marketplace, and so you can actually trade duration assets, and you can like price the NAV and all that stuff. And so I think that's really cool. And like they have like the founder Toki has like a really like interesting view on that, on like oh, everything's fixed income, everything is duration, like whether it's these tokenized credit funds or stable coins or LSTs or even poly market positions when it's like 99%. That's like basic. It's like, oh, that's essentially just like a fixed rate duration bond. So I think I'm an optimist and I get really excited about these things. So I think there's like a lot of potential there. There's like a few other protocols I've like talked to that I'm excited about, like Strata, Supernova. So like there are builders here, like and I think this is a great time for DeFi because it's like our time to like put our heads down and actually build, while like the shiny object red light of attention is on prediction markets and perp dexes and even AI agents and OpenClaw and all that stuff. Like the people, like I know like everyone building DeFi right now like actually cares and is actually like interested in what they're building, and they're not like here for the hype, because it's hard to build in DeFi and it's hard to build like consistency and gain traction, but we're getting there. And like I think all these different things are coming together, like the institutions coming on chain, the new primitives being built, the new users coming on board. I think I think like the next phase is just like making access easier, like connecting everything. And like, what does DeFi do best? What does crypto do best? It's composability, it's money Legos. It's a value travel, like that can travel at the speed of light and connecting at the speed of light. That just wasn't happened before. I think one of my favorite tweets is from Austin Campbell, and it went along the lines of like, it's amazing how like the current financial system, the current banking plumbing and rails that power banking is so archaic and old that like you would like literally need like superstition and witchcraft to figure it out and hope that like everything works. And it's like amazing like how entrenched like a lot of like the old like banking guard is. Like they're still fighting the Genius Act after it passed. They're making it like they want to sue or something, the OCC, about like Kraken getting a master account. This is like what's literally holding up the Clarity Act, is the banks are like trying to fight something that passed. Like, come on, guys, like they're this is really first they laugh at you, then they fight you. This is like the deep in the like the fight you stage, and like soon we'll win. And I think at the end of the day, like once we upgrade the financial system, because like I think that's what like a big part of what blockchain is good for, it's just going to make everything so much more efficient. And I think this would be more important in a multipolar world, because before we could afford like having like shitty archaic plumbing because the dollar was the dominant world reserve currency, and I have no doubt it will like remain like up there as like a top currency. But like you see like a multipolar world coming about where like you're gonna have people decide like, do I want to like be in the dollar? Do I want to be in the Chinese yuan or the euro or like something else? Like the dollar's gonna have to compete in different ways, and for it to compete, you might as well upgrade that plumbing. And I'm like one to believe that I think stablecoins are better in America's case than like CBDCs. That's like my current position. Because I think like stablecoins issued at like not even at a local level, but like at a network effect level. Like if I cover like a certain industry, like Shopify e-commerce, if I could like create a stablecoin for that is like adaptive to like the Shopify e-commerce economy, and that's like really efficient than like the Fed trying to do like this blanket policy for everything. But yeah, that's kind of like where I see DeFi at. And yeah, that's my rant.
I enjoyed that perspective a lot. Actually, I agree with so much of what you said there. I think your first, the first point you made about it, I actually agree. It's kind of the main thing that's starting to really become very distinguishable. The fact that all these institutions are coming, stuff like the institutions are
here. They're here. Yeah.
The institutions are here, and DeFi is very different than the time that like the early days of like DeFi summer, for example. Like nowadays, it's not I'm farming Wi-Fi as well, brother, and and every day like a new token. The industry has matured in a way. Stable coins are the main dish, if you ask me, because still like people want actual money, and stable coins are the manifestation of actual money on chain.
Yeah,
like,
it's the peer-to-peer digital cash. Yeah.
Sorry again.
Yeah,
exactly. Peer-to-peer digital.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to add with like the DeFi summer. For so long, like DeFi was fueled by speculation. I was there DeFi summer, and it was magical. But like the token system, like the tokens, dynamics, and systems that we built were endogenous. They were powered by growth within itself, not by like an external source. And it had its purpose. Like it got a lot of people like onboarded and excited. And who could forget that Fortune magazine cover of like DeFi versus Wall Street, and you had all the CT characters on there. Like that shit was so cool. But eventually like the music stopped, the parties ends, the merry-go-round stops, and like what you're left is like a really bad hangover. And I think a big thing is like tokens should stop being as valuable as they used to be. It used to be novel to come out with a token, and then you have a pump fund come along, and anybody could be a dev. Anybody could just like launch a token, and then people in this like whole wave of financial nihilism started. It's just like, oh, like nothing's like worth anything, might as well just like go all in on Farcoin and Bodin and whatnot. And so like tokens became less valuable. You kind of had like at the same time you had this evolution of incentive programs from pool 2 to points, which made it a lot more which really took the power from like the user to like the teams, because the teams could decide like okay, like what should we allocate towards like this activity, like how much is it worth at the end of the day. It's just like an A/B test. It's so hard to like figure it out, and I think like where a lot of mistakes were made was like teams giving away too much of their token, whether it's in like in points programs or like during like pool 2 season or this and that. And like that's something we thought deeply about cap is like incentive alignment, and like that's why we're doing a stable drop. I mean, we're going to be like giving stable coins to people that farmed our points. But you see this like you see like several trends over in DeFi over the past few years, from endogenous yield from itself to exogenous yield from actual like activities that aren't just like based on token inflation, but real hard work. Whether that's like HFT trading or, anything in finance. Like something we're looking at, Cap, is like things in the productive economy, like financing manufacturing and financing shipping and financing, like all cool things that are coming in the pipeline very, very, very soon. And I'm smirking about it because it's like, this is how we break the crypto containment and actually like be finance. Because I think at the end of the day, this will just become finance. So you have like endogenous yield to exogenous yield. And it's funny seeing the, I think I said this earlier, it's like when you see the evolution of incentives and tokens and points and like, what's the point of my token? It's like bootstrap the early community. And I like to say that Pendo is like the final boss. It's like the end game of Pool 2. Because like you're doing the same function as Pool 2. Like, oh, you want like people to like supply, like hold, like do some activity and you get rewarded for it. Whether Pool 2 is supplying liquidity with like a lot of these stable coins, it's just like, oh, like making sure like they're both like TVL based, but one's supplying liquidity, one's like stablecoin TVL. But see, I view it as like the end game of Pool 2. I'm very curious on how like Pendo evolves. I had to look into Boros more with the interest rate trading and stuff. And I think it's just like a matter for like all this stuff to be bootstrapped. We're still in like such the early phases of like the whole world's coming on chain. And if you're like thesis and stance is the whole world's coming on chain, like we're still very, very, very early. And so it's cool. It's cool to see all these things come about. And it's going to be interesting to see, like, I think also like we're going to see like, we're seeing like new chains come about too, or like, I think like it's like the whole, like 10 years ago, you had the whole enterprise blockchain and just didn't work. We'll see what happens now with like the new flavors of like enterprise blockchains, which I don't like. They're like the Tempos, the Robinhood cryptos. It's my hope that they build in the principles and ethos of crypto, which is like open, permissionless, decentralized systems, and they should be building in that direction as much as they possibly can. Otherwise, they're just not going to be successful. Like if you're going to build like a private permission blockchain, you might as well just throw in a database. But yeah, that's my other rant.
I actually think that on that specific point, I actually think that this is just another branch of the industry that we're going to notice, and it's going to exist as well. I just don't think that it's going to actually take over, because those who can and want to will choose decentralized rails. But I think that all these like, private blockchains, or however we should call them, they emerge because there is a need for something like that. Like some entities and some people, they actually do prefer that, that style of structure, and they can't really do anything with the huge amounts of capital without having these very much regulated term and like infrastructures that they have to follow through. So I actually think that this is like a natural part of the evolution, and I do think that as Ethereum keeps growing, it will eventually offer the best liquidity, the best rails, and it will gain more and more trust. So personally, I think that these won't really take over. If you know.
I agree.
It's only my assumption. I have no idea what's actually going to happen, but I think that we have, in a way, and again, I'm not trying to jinx it or whatever, but on some levels, we have reached a certain amount of escape velocity that some people will never go back. You know what I mean? I'm never going back unless they seriously find a way, God forbid, to force me to do it. Because I want my money on Ethereum. I want my assets on Ethereum. And if I can, by the way, right now we're seeing a huge rise in tokenization as well, and real world assets, whatever. I will want to find versions of these on Ethereum. If I can pick, if I want to invest in a specific stock, for example, then obviously I want a tokenized version of it. And if I can choose between a tokenized version on Ethereum and on a private blockchain, Me personally, I will go for the one
Yeah,
on
that's
Ethereum.
that's
But I'm
another
sure
thing.
others will want like the private one, you know?
You talk about like you asked me before, like what institutional like things I see emerging in DeFi. Definitely tokenized stocks. Definitely, different positions on hyperliquid, whether it's like oil, like S&P 500, silver, all this stuff. So like actual like finance, like this is what I mean. Like DeFi's just become finance, like are emerging. Like you have like XOX, you have Ondo with like tokenized stocks. These tokenized stocks are being like available on centralized exchanges in markets where they could not trade regulated U.S. stocks because they're not in the U.S. They don't have a U.S. brokerage account, and it soon like now they're actually going to be. It's like they're kind of like the new stable coins. They're just like wrapping, and it's like representation of a stock, and it's just like a mat. Like now that it's not just about the value of the stock, but it's about like liquidity around the stock, and like are you able to redeem the tokenized stock? So tokenized stocks and just like trading traditional assets on chain, whether it's like an hyperliquid or Ostium, like I see that as like getting bigger. And in terms of like you're talking about Ethereum, I've always said that I'm an Ethereum romantic. I love the idea of building in like a direction of decentralization, immutability, trustlessness, all the words that confuse normies. I think I was talking to somebody the other day from the ETH Foundation, and he said like another way to frame what makes Ethereum great is like it's self-sovereignty, and another way to frame self-sovereignty, I think Danny Ryan talks about it, he mentioned, was through like the lens of counterparty and knowing your counterparty. If I'm on a chain that's owned by like one corporation or like like that or like one party, and like can they rug me, like that is like your counterparty risk. But with like a chain like Ethereum, because you have all these kind of like big organizations like balancing out each other, but no one has like complete control of the underlying system. There is way less there's like no counterparty risk as compared to like other more centralized like blockchains. And so when it comes to Ethereum, like I like the direction that Ethereum's going. I like there's more of a fire under their ass now, and I think they realize that it's not just about TVL. I think like TVL was emphasizing TVL is important, but emphasizing TVL as the end all be all was kind of like one of the early mistakes of DeFi. It's not just about that; it's also about transactions. And I'm talking about not just on like a protocol level, but like at a chain at a blockchain level. Because you could have like all the TVL in the world, but if you're not, the TVL isn't moving, it's kind of like you're like you're like stuck. It's like slow. But it's like a vibrant system, like whether you can like see this in nature, like vibrant systems are alive, they're moving, then there's velocity there. And so like I think like emphasizing the velocity of capital is important too. And like both systems can be game. Like people play TVL games and people play like transaction games. But like I think Ethereum like focusing on the L1, increasing like throughput, efficiency, speed, cost effectiveness is great. And that doesn't mean like L2s are out of the picture. Like I always view, like I said this on my panel about stablecoins at ETH Denver, like I see Ethereum being the settlement layer for stablecoins for all assets. Like Ethereum should be aiming to be the settlement layer. And then if you have like specialized use cases and payments and whatnot, then those can be like L2s, or maybe you see them in like all L1s and whatnot. But but at the end of the day, also it's like it's interesting to see like how dominant EVM still is, even like after all this time. Obviously like Solana and SVM, like you got to give credit where credit's due, has been able to capture a lot. But in terms of like their maturity of like the system itself, like Ethereum is just like a lot older and more developed, and has more developer tools, has more liquidity, has more trust. Like so it can say no downtime, which like institutions love, which people love. And so I think just like and like how to like value these things, like you can't just like value them like stocks. You got to value them like networks. Like I think it's like much better to view like Ethereum as its own like nation and country. And like I think what got me excited about Ethereum, especially in 2021, was seeing things denominated in ETH, like seeing NFTs denominated in ETH, seeing like ETH used as a quote at like you quote things like assets in ETH. Like that's how you like really get adoption, especially as like the world becomes more multipolar. And I think if like Ethereum like leans into that, like, just start off with like one thing being like denominating ETH. Like that's like what Ethereum should focus on. And then like, yeah, so I'll end that rant there.
No, I like the fact that you can keep going and going. You're a natural podcaster, and I think it also like reflects something I really like about you, and I'm sure many of your audience, many in your audience feel the same way. Is your enthusiasm? Like I really think that the level of enthusiasm and the way you care about what you do is a big part of what really makes you a very attractive communicator in the minds of
Thank
many.
you.
And I'm sure it really was a big part in minds and like many others that were following you even since like the Frax and the
Flywheel days. Yeah.
days.
I say,
But also
yeah,
for Cap, like I'm sure that Benjamin
oh yeah,
took
the reason,
that aspect into consideration as well. Other than, of course, your knowledge, you really do have a huge knowledge about both finance and money.
I say that the reason why I was brought onto Cap was from my work at Flywheel and everything I did at Flywheel and Frax and everything I brought there. So everything is like works out in hindsight. And I feel like enthusiasm. Thank you, first of all. And I think enthusiasm is one of my biggest strengths because, like I said, I'm not going to be the smartest person in the room. There's people that are like much better at like going deep and like using these things than I am, but I can explain them pretty well. And I know how to use them and I get a sense of them and I can like articulate it in my own words. I have my own strengths, whether, it's my articulation or like me getting excited about things. And I think when it comes to podcasting, it's really, that's one way you connect to your audience is like actually caring about and being excited about what you're talking about and what you're covering. Because, yes, there's like a million different pieces of content, but like very few people that actually care. And like I find being like, how do you make your content unique is like actually caring and actually giving a fuck, to put it bluntly. And like I find with podcasting, people listen to podcasts for two reasons. One, they're looking for alpha, like they're looking for an edge, they're looking to learn something, which is why a lot of people watch Flywheel. And I wrote like a piece actually, like why am I starting like the DeFi Dave Pod? They watch it for two reasons. Like one, like they're looking for alpha, and two, they're looking for a friend. They're just like, looking, they have someone in their ear that's like talking to them, that's explaining to them, that is like sounding very welcoming, and is this, it's a parasocial relationship. You have this person in your ear talking to you. And I find like the best podcasts are the ones where you feel like you're sitting in the room with the host and the guest. That's why Joe Rogan was so successful, because you feel like you're in the room. That's why Kobe was so successful with Up Only. One of my favorite Up Only like programs was like, it was like the Untitled Podcast. It was with Kobe, Melton, Avi, and Ansem. It was just like four of them chewing the shit in the room. And I just felt like I was in the room with them. Like, I'm sure like a lot of listeners felt that way too. So as a podcaster, if you're creating like that experience for the listener, you're doing a good job, and that's how you get a listener to stick around. And like it's like one thing, like you'll always get like people like come and go. And I learned with Flywheel, it's like people listen to like one or two podcasts in a lifetime, so that's why it's really important to be consistent. Like, yeah, I mean, they only get a few hundred views an episode, but if you do 100 episodes, that's tens of thousands of views. Really important to be. That's why it's important to be consistent. And it's also big to get big guests. I think like something I'm going to work on is like, I'm really good at getting like people up and coming on, but like, I'd love to get like bigger guests on like the DeFi Dave Pod and bigger guests on Cap Room when fit. But yeah, let me see. I want to pull up that article because I feel like that's really, really important. Let me
Go ahead. I will share the screen once you pop it up. What article are you talking about exactly? The one by David Morris or something?
Oh, no. The one by me about let me see, about like why I'm starting a podcast again. That's literally it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like I explain like can I share screen? There we go.
Yeah, once you press it, I will be able to see it on okay, here it is.
Okay.
I'm popping it up.
Yeah. So like in this article, I talk about, why people listen to podcasts. And then I talk about like, it's no secret that crypto is changing, and we talked about it earlier in the pod.
Where can people find that article, Dave? By the way?
It's you can find it on my Twitter at DeFi Dave under articles.
Cool.
Yeah. And so it's like no secret like crypto's evolved and changing. We're all competing against algorithms, that harvest attention at any given moment. And so so that's why I started like the DeFi Dave Pod. And like I explain like I'm using like crypto as a springboard for like a bigger range of topics, an interdisciplinary range of topics. Like, yeah, I'm going to talk about crypto too, but I want to talk about all different things. Talk about all different things, get feedback from my audience, like see what they want me to talk about. But mainly like bridging the gaps between like ideas, bridging the gaps between like the forces influencing our world. That's why I thought like David Morris was a great first guest, between like history, philosophy, finance, contemporary events, and like really like talk about things and, have people come to conclusions that they may have not thought of before. And, just, yeah, so that's the article. Let me stop. There we go.
I really enjoyed the fact that you chose a very original guest. Like I would never have guessed that that would be the first interview on your show, and I really think that is one angle that podcasts can be very unique with, like by just bringing like guests that people don't expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What else can you tell us about the upcoming DeFi Dave pod? Meaning, like, for example, you say you want to have on bigger guests.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say that, first of all, like, what do you mean? And maybe like from which like fields and area? Because you did say, if I understood correctly, that you don't want it to be too DeFi centric. You kind of want DeFi to be the gateway into like different fields and niches. But you really want to, again, if I understood you correctly, to kind of expand the horizons of your like work and like reach other topics.
Yeah, so like, like bigger guests really bring more people in that, may have not listened to before. Like dream guest would be Balaji. I think, he's a great yapper. Don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but like I love the concept of the network state. And how we created like a methodology to measure like a new type of state. So I'd love to have Balaji on. I'd love to have like, Patrick Collison, of the founder of Stripe, on. I think the more I read about him, the more interesting he is. So like founder of Stripe, like him or his brother or something like that would be really cool. Like who else would be on? Like interesting. Like love to have like Dwarkesh Patel on, because like when I was like, starting this podcast again, I'm like, okay, what should I like model like some of my things after? Like, love to have him. I think what he's doing with how he uses like AI as a springboard to all these different things. I'm talking about like history and everything. I think he's an excellent podcaster, excellent interview. So let's have Dwarkesh Patel on. Yeah, who else would I love to have on? Like, obviously, like if Elon Musk comes on, that would be pretty dope. If who else? Like Brian Armstrong would be really cool. Palmer Luckey would be really cool. Like I just like,
yeah,
people,
you're right. They will.
like,
but like, but what I mean is like, how do you intend to attract bigger like guests? Maybe that's like what I'm trying.
I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna get there. Like I have the end goal in mind, but the path is like is to be walked, and like I can't predict how. I don't have like an exact strategy. I guess how I always lived my life or like done things is I'm very adaptive to my environment. And if I see like a door open and an opportunity, I like walk through the door and I take the opportunity. So just like it's always been just like a slow grind, and hopefully like as I do the DeFi Dave Pod more consistently, it attracts more of an audience, brings on bigger guests, and like it gets shared. I think like the biggest way to grow is like being shared. Like I guess my two growth strategies are being shared by others, like bigger like accounts, bigger podcasters, and also so like being shared, having on big guests, and clips. Having on clips. Clipping is huge. There's like a whole like that's how you grow is like through the clips. That's how I found like Dwarkesh Patel. That's how I found this guy Roy. He's like a great. I would love to have him on. He's like this YouTube historian.
Who is that?
In Austin. What's his name? Fucking Roy something. Let me see. He's
And
like
when
a
you kind of mean like doing clips from your own show, right?
yeah, clipping. Yeah, doing like clips.
I
and stuff.
agree,
That's
man.
it.
Like I usually call it content extraction, and I actually think that that's such a key. That's like, for example, something I have also not been doing like well enough at all.
Yeah,
but I am trying to do it really. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. So I also want to make clear, like, I don't want to just have big guests. That sounds like kind of conceited. Like that's just like one facet, because I think my bread and butter has always been identifying either whether they were builders or commentators, like people like early on that are like up and comers, like before they were big. Like I'm really good at identifying them, and then they get big. I think I did that at Flywheel. I was the first one to interview Alon from Pump Fun a month after Pump Fun launched. And then I interviewed Shriram in 2023 before anyone knew what restaking was. So like applying that, but to Twitter posters would be really cool. So I'd also love to have like Twitter posters on, like people I like find really interesting, whether it's like Young Macro or Cold Healing or there's a few others, but like those are like the two ones that come to mind now. Just having like Twitter posters on, because I think they have like such an interesting perspective about the world. Maybe host debates. I think debates could be pretty cool between like people with differentiating ideas. So, but yeah, I think like that would be my bread and butter, is like, because it has always been like up and comers and identifying up and comers. But I think something I'm trying to improve at is getting like big name guests on. So yeah. And then
I think I can relate. I think we all do, and I can definitely relate to that other part you mentioned about bringing on people early. I can tell you that I think one of the things I'm proudest the most is the amount of projects that I know that like the first show that they were on is on Leviathan.
See, you identify them early.
Yeah, and also like I just want to talk to people, and I want them on. Like I'm not like into like playing games and get back to me when you grow. Like for me, it's the other. Of course, I want to talk to big projects as well, but I'm also like I'm really enjoying the fact that, oh my God, you've never been on a show before. Like come on, be on my show first. Like I'm going to tell everyone that you are on my show first. So that's definitely something that I like a lot. Just an example, I had the Quote guys that are building on Hyperliquid. They're about to launch their private beta soon. And, I always enjoyed that, like extremely smart, young people that that you have a sense, you don't know, but like you feel that they're going to build something huge. And like you get the chance to tell it, to listen to it like for the first time, and to share it with the audience for the first time. It's always like it's a huge honor for me, basically, the way that I see it. And
you're breaking the story. You're breaking the
you like, and also like the fact that that it wasn't discussed yet, and like just an example, I had. Did you hear about the new project that Token Bryce and Robert are building, Polaris Finance?
Yeah, I heard about Polaris.
So the first place again that you could have listened to them talk about it is here on Leviathan News, and they were like at the end of January, and yesterday I saw that they were on Blockmates. Okay, so like for me, there's something about it, knowing that. The Leviathan audience has heard it like a month before. You know what I mean? And
they knew.
Yeah, like blockmates are huge, and shout out to Grant and everyone. I like them. I think they've been doing like brilliant work on many levels. Like it's a great podcast, and it's a huge stage as well. Like I'm very happy for Polaris to be on it. And again, it's very early to get them on now, to get Polaris on, because it's only going to launch in a few months. Like I'm not saying that blockmates are late or whatever, but like just to know that, man, I like Polaris went public with an X account, and the day after or 2 days after, because I was fortunate to notice, I had them on and they were available. So for me, it's always like, I always enjoy that kind of stuff. And Dave, let's talk about what you're going to also do with the cap room, if you don't.
With the what?
I kind of want to touch on that a bit as well. And I want to give a big shout out to Benjamin and Cap in general, not only because I really like them, and Benjamin is one of my favorite guests, by the way. Is one of the most the smartest and the sharpest individuals that I've met in the industry for sure. But I want to give a big shout out for them actually sponsoring your content. I think that's a huge move. I think that it really plays into the whole symbiosis of content creator and project relationship, which can really make the whole thing much more sustainable. And at least I'm, of course, not really objective about this kind of stuff, but I actually think that this will be a great instrument for them and very useful for them to really have you spread that message as well.
You. So, I think it's it makes sense. You want to as a company, you want to uplift your most powerful team members and creators and people that are able to get attention in this attention economy, and both give them free reign to do what they want, but also have them working towards your goals as a company. And I think you see that with what we're doing at Cap with myself and Cap, whether it's you have the Cap room, Cap related stuff, deep DeFi stuff. If you want Alpha Edge, that's that. And they have the DeFi Dave Pod, that's me. So if you've been following me for a while and want to keep up with everything I find interesting and keep up with culture and tech and all that fun stuff, DeFi Dave Pod's for you. But yeah, everything that's going on at Cap. You just want to talk about Cap in general?
Basically, I want to talk about what you have in mind for the Cap room.
The Cap room, So
itself.
Yeah, so with the Cap room, I said this earlier. I think I want this to be the Flywheel revival, and it's funny because Cap has its own flywheel too. You get in the delegations, the collateral, which leads to the borrows, which leads to higher APY, which leads to more TVL, more deposits coming in, and it's the flywheel is powered really by these delegations and whatnot. So it's actually the Flywheel revival of the Cap room. In a funny way, but it's a flywheel, not just Flywheel the Cap the protocol, but Flywheel the show, because we went so deep into DeFi. I didn't realize how niche we were until I was really, because that was my first. I've actually been doing podcasts since 2019. I've had different shows.
Really? Before you mean before Flywheel?
2018. Yeah, 2019. Yeah, I had one for my first company, Everpedia, the IQ Talk, because our token was called IQ. I think I did 6 episodes. I had one with Gelato called the DeFi Scoop, because it was Gelato. I think we did 12 episodes. But Flywheel was the first one where it was consistently every week, and we did that for over 131 episodes in 130 weeks. But the Cap room is the deep DeFi podcast. I just everything Cap. We want to go deep with our partners, talk about what they're doing, highlighting them, their strengths. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more types of programs about on the Cap room in the future, in the same Flywheel. You had the main Flywheel pod, you had Frax Check, and you had different things. I'm sure as we evolve our content strategy, we will get more programs in the future. But the Cap room is just your DeFi bespoke show, and expect like, Ben to come on, expect our partners to come on, just to explain things. I want like the cap rooms to be a resource that I can point to if people have like questions on like, oh, like how does like restaking work, or how do like operators generate yield? And I can be like, oh, just watch this episode. Like, oh, watch this partner. Like, I wanted this to be like another resource. So it's like, this is much more like evergreen content, for sure, than just like, and like, yeah, we'll do like, things and updates in the news and whatnot. But you're deep. Like if all your listeners of your show, like everyone that's watching right now, you're going to love the cap room. I highly recommend you subscribe on YouTube, you subscribe, follow on wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe on Substack. The cap room, you're welcome in the cap room. The door is open. Come join us.
I'm sure it's going to be a brilliant show as well. How often do you guys intend to do it? Do you already know?
Yeah, so that will be more bespoke. So like whenever we have like partnerships or anything, or like anything comes about, I don't want to set myself, I will do it consistently. I don't want to set myself to like a set schedule, like once a week, because like some things will be slower than others. But it will be bespoke. You will get like something like once a month. I would say like at least, but like I want to do it more. Like that's why like I'm only doing like half-hour shows, or like around half hour for like the cap room, because I have to like watch out for my own bandwidth and like all the other things that I'm doing outside of making content. And also like people don't really like there are long form podcasts. I don't think like the long form like the deep DeFi content's meant to be like too long form. I just want to like get to the point, explain things like in like the most to the point way possible, in the simplest way possible. Because I feel like if you the thing is with like DeFi and stuff, you let people go like on and on and on. Like they may be like technically correct, but they just like lose people along the way. So like trying to like get them like on course. So I think like half-hour shows bespoke, like in terms of like the content release schedule. You just have to subscribe. That's how you keep up.
Let's show them where. Let's show them where. So first of all, we have the cap room on YouTube. You say that it's also going to be published on the X account of Cap Money, not like a different X account there.
No, yeah. So it's on the Cap Money. We'll tweet like our shows from there.
Just share the screen here. Just a second, sir. I think this is the one. This is the first episode that you've released, I think, just like about an hour or two ago, no?
Literally, yeah, just like right before us hopping on.
But by the way, Dave, much respect for assembling like 5 guests together.
I know.
I know that it's not an easy task, man.
Yeah, I can't believe I did it too. Like we were able to like get that many people on at once. So.
It's so, when I started doing this kind of stuff, like I thought how difficult can it be to get 3 people together on the same time for a call? But like, man, it's sometimes borderline impossible.
Yeah, but I think it came together for this. You give people a reason to like come on, and like explaining this kind of partnership, like really gives people a reason.
I agree. If people want to find this podcast, by the way, they should go to this, what I'm showing here now. How do you say that in English, that line when it's in the middle? I know how to say
your destination for cap, stablecoins, and the convergence of TradFi and DeFi.
No, what I'm trying to ask you is like the line between the and the cap. Like when it's an underscore, I know how to say underscore, but how do you say that?
Oh, it's like a dash.
Okay, yeah. So the dash cap, the dash room, to find the cap room on YouTube. Please go there and subscribe. By the way, it's only going to be on both podcasts. No, but you actually said that the
DeFi they're gonna be at Spotify.
The DeFi Dave show is on other places.
So 2 different YouTube channels. You have the Cap Room is one YouTube channel.
That I know. But what I'm trying to ask is where else are you gonna publish the content there? Only on YouTube and X on the Cap?
No,
Because on your side, you also say that you're going to do Substack and Apple and Spotify.
Yes. So with the Cap Room, we have a Substack that we'll publish to. We have Apple Podcasts and we have Spotify. And then with the DeFi Dave Pod, we have Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Very cool. Looking forward to it. Let's just show the DeFi Dave Pod one as well. Let me pop it up here. Just a second. And by the way, Dave, while I find it, like anything else that I should have touched on and I haven't asked you?
I think we covered everything. Like I think I think I've done all the yapping. Oh wow, we almost have 100 views. Nice.
Respect. Go check out this first episode that Dave has already released
SBF's Judge
with
Kaplan says
David Z. Morris, the fall of SBF and the techno-utopian mirage. Great headline, by the way. Guys, follow the DeFi Dave pod. You can easily find it wherever you look for. And of course, just go to Dave's X account and find it there. Dave, much respect, man. I really appreciate you coming on and telling us about your new ventures, both shows.
Yes, of course. Always a pleasure coming on. Thanks for having me.
Sorry.
It's always a pleasure to come on.
It's an honor to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're very busy with not only content creating, but mostly with cap money stuff. And I don't want to be Benjamin to be upset for me holding you too long, while I'm sure he has some other tasks for you. But I really enjoyed having this opportunity to have another guest on for the first time, talking about his new venture with you and the new shows. I'm looking forward to see what you come up with for when, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is like the first time that you're going to have a show which is really... like you're the main player, you know, like you call all the shots. It's not like the Cap Room. Okay, it's a Cap thing. Flywheel was a Frax thing, and it was with Keith and Sam. And this time, it's like more of a way for you to be able to really express what you're here to do.
Exactly.
Which I'm very curious about. I'm very curious about where you're going to take it. And look forward to be updated with you whenever the time is right to recheck it. And man, much luck, much respect, a lot of success. Go follow DeFi Dave, everyone. Follow us at Leviathan News. I'm DAdvisoor. You can find me as well. And Dave, anything you want to add before I wrap things up with the SQUID Pass winners again and the outro?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. The DeFi Dave Pod is really my thing, and the thing I have full ownership and creative direction over. So if you're curious of joining me on, if you've been following me since Flywheel and all these years, and you're curious for me to continue my journey, but under my taste, my direction, please go subscribe to the DeFi Dave Pod on all major platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple. And appreciate letting me come on. To all the listeners, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for your support all these years, and the best is yet to come.
Amen to that. Much respect to you, sir. And I really think that, again, like I mentioned earlier, your passion and enthusiasm, I think, is going to have a key role in both you doing it consistently and the viewers hopefully really enjoying it and being educated by you and your curiosity and knowledge and storytelling abilities. So big shout out. Looking forward to it. And by the way, I really hope that just like you already have, I saw that you already have 2 shorts from that interview up. I really hope to see a lot of clips going on and content extraction.
More clips. Yeah.
You're going to do there.
We're gonna be clipping
I
big.
agree. It's an amazing key in really growing the reach and like funneling people onto the channel and the content. So looking forward to that. Much respect and good luck. Let me just give another shout out to the SQUID Pass winners, Palliora. Just 1 second, let me share it on screen here, guys. Here we go. Just a second. Okay, yeah, it's here now. Palliora, superagency for human AI coordination, share, monetize, and compute privately on your data with selective disclosure, verifiable results, and fair rewards. Thank you so much for choosing the Leviathan News and winning the SQUID Pass for the week. You can find that post on the Leviathan News Telegram and X accounts pinned posts. Much respect, and a big shout out, of course, to Arcus that made the incredible intro video that I'm also using as an outro. So thank you for sticking with us, Dave, and have a great rest of your day. And talk to you soon, man. Looking forward.
Thank you so much.
To it.
Likewise.
Thank you, brother. Bye.
See ya.
それはレバヤさんニュースだ。デセットライズだ。逃げろ。誰でもドトできる。誰でもスキーを稼げる。ガバナンスまである。中集権のメディアはもう終わりだ。
真相から